Hey everyone, my name is David Rao, and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. I'm so excited to be back with you tonight to share a little bit on these Musical Mondays live videos. Thanks so much for taking the time to spend the time on your weekday night to come and chat with me a little bit about music education. I'm so excited to be back. I'm going to try a couple new things this year. So for instance, Facebook, if you can't hear me, I'm trying a new microphone to capture the audio better. So if you can't hear me, please let me know so that I can take the microphone out. But anyway, I'm just so excited to be back and to be sharing more this year. So a couple things. If you are excited to get this PD every Monday, you can get it in a bunch of different ways. You can join me here live tonight on Facebook or on Instagram. You can also watch the replay as soon as the video is over. I post the video on my Facebook page, which is David Rao at Make Moments Matter. I also take the video usually on Tuesdays after school. I'll sit down and I put it on YouTube because I know a lot of people can't watch like at school, they can't watch Facebook, and so I also archive them on YouTube. And I also take the audio and I turn it into a podcast. So if you're like, I can't be there Monday night, I can't sit down and watch the video, but I can listen to you while I'm walking my dog or running on the treadmill or whatever, you have that option too. So if you're like, okay, great, see ya, I'm gonna listen to you on the replay, I totally understand. I'm fine with that. Monday, it's a busy week. But I just wanted you to know there are a lot of ways to watch and participate. So there are your options. You can also, as I'm talking tonight, as I'm talking about different resources or ideas or things, and you say, oh, what's that thing you talked about? I always try and put all of the links or references or anything I talk about. There's a page on my blog, and I try and put everything in that one place. So if you go to makemomentsmatter.org and you click on the tab that says video, there should be a drop down, and you can click on Musical Mondays Recap 2019-2020. And I put all the links to anything I reference there, the puppets or the books or whatever I do, I put it there on that page so you can just click it and find it a little bit easier. And if I talk about something and I forget to put it on that page, which is absolutely possible, just shoot me a message or email me. I'm makemomentsmatter@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to put those things on that recap page so that you have that available. Let's see. Oh, I have a couple more things I need to talk about. So if you want to continue this conversation after the video is over, or you have questions, or you want to ask a broader group, or something we talked about tonight brings up another question that you'd love to have answered, I have a Facebook group, and it's Every Moment Matters, music education community. You can find it on Facebook. It's actually linked in the links to this video, so you can go and click through and join that group, and it does, I hope it's a place where you can continue on conversations and get more music education, because I started blogging and I started doing podcasts and all of that because, when I was a first-year teacher and second-year teacher and third-year teacher and fourth-year teacher, I honestly felt like an island a lot of the time because, while a third-grade teacher can walk across the hall and get, lesson advice and classroom management tips and worksheets or, just whatever to use in their classroom, we can't do that as music teachers. And so that's why I started blogging. That's why I started doing these videos, why I go out and do workshops, because I want us to feel more like a community. And while the internet is not perfect, and while Facebook is not perfect, this one group is just another way to continue that conversation so that we can be better educators, because that's the goal, to be friends with one another, to learn from one another, and to be better educators. That's always the goal. So that's, if you look on Facebook, it's Every Moment Matters Music Education Community, and you can join there if you want. It's a closed group, just so I don't know, like German hackers don't try and get in, spam the group. But if you ask to join, I will let you in. And one more thing, if you love these video workshop type clinic, whatever, me sharing random lesson ideas, if you like this, you can see me in person. I'm doing some workshops this year, and on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org, on the About Me tab, I've listed out all the workshops I'm doing. There are a couple more that I haven't listed because I still have to finalize some things, but they're coming up, so I'm excited. I'm going to be at a bunch of state music education conferences this year. I'm so excited to like meet people in person, because while it's fun to stare at my phone in my home office and see you commenting, it's even more fun to like see you in person and chat in person. So I hope to see many of you this year all around the country, different places. So as always, if you leave comments or questions in either the Instagram feed or the Facebook feed, or if you come back weeks later and you're watching on YouTube or whatever, if you leave those questions or comments, I always try and go back and answer them if it's a question for me. If it's just a general question, a lot of times other teachers who are watching will also chime in, and that's really cool. So that conversation can continue happening. Leave your question, it's worth it. But I encourage those questions and comments as we go. So normally I would give you a rundown of all my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons for the week, and then I would do a deep dive on one of those grades. So 2nd grade or 3rd grade, I would take you through the whole lesson, sing you the songs, tell you my process, explain all of that. And I did that all last year. I did 30 different videos, 15 in the fall and 15 in the spring, giving you a ton of lesson ideas and giving you a ton of the background of why I teach lessons the way that I do. And that's normally what's going to happen. Next week when you come and watch the video or join in, that's what you'll see. But this week I wanted to do something a little bit different, just because I feel like so many of us have a lot of questions about back to school and how you start planning and how you prepare. And so I wanted to talk just about a few of those things. So the structure today is going to be a little bit different. I know on the first one, I should stick to my normal routine, but on this first one, it's going to be a little bit different. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through maybe some ideas that you might do for before school starts. Some things you might do on the first day of school, or that first rotation where you see kids for the first time. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about day 2 or rotation number 2. So you can sort of see in the background of like what I plan before school, what I do in that first time with kids, and then what I do after. Because I think that that's so important, and we don't always talk about that. And if you student teach, a lot of times you like get in a couple weeks after school started and you miss that. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about that as we go. And so that's going to be the format: before school, first day, and then second rotation. So when I'm thinking about going back to school, a lot of the stress is get everything where it goes. Put my desk out, put things on the walls, get the instruments out of storage, dust them off, all of that. And that takes a little bit of time, getting things where you like them or situated the way you like. And that takes time. And of course you're in and out because of meetings, or something happens, you got to leave. So that takes a bulk of the time. So I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about that bulletin board stuff, because a lot of times you'll get your puppets out, you'll get the books out, you'll get your desk right where you want it, and then you have a blank bulletin board and you're like, what do I fill this with? So let's talk about some of those things. I would say that the vital things that you put on your wall are the things that you're going to use the most often, that are really important to you, or things that are district mandated, things that you're going to want to have on your wall. So for example, if your district says you need to have I can statements, then those should probably be on your wall. Probably somewhere where you're going to reference them, somewhere close. So if you have like the whiteboard and then you have a bulletin board right next to it, you might put the I cans there, but just somewhere where you can get to it and change it out. I've done I cans like 1,000 different ways. I'm trying to find a way that works the best for me. I actually did an entire blog post about I can statements in the music room, how to use them effectively, how to use them without tearing out your hair, because I could do an I can every 3 minutes because I'm doing something different, but how do you find a way to do a sort of overarching I can? And so I wrote a whole blog post about that. I won't bore you talking all about that, but I'll just say a couple things. When I do I cans, I try and make it really simple for myself. So I pulled down off the wall actually today one of my I can boards, and I have pictures of this on my Instagram and my Facebook and all that sort of thing. But here is, I know it's backwards because I'm using my FaceTime camera, sorry. But here is my 3rd grade I can sort of focus spot. So on the wall, I do kindergarten 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. These little sort of anchor stations, right? And then on that, I put up the I can for the week. Sorry, I tapped that video. So on that, I put the I can for the week. So for instance, I could put up something very simplistic like this. I can play. And these I cans, I printed them out. I printed out a ton of them, basically all the I cans I could think of for the year. I put Velcro dots on them so that they're very easy to switch in and out. And actually, when you have sort of general things like I can play, you could use that for kindergarten one week, for third grade the next, for fourth grade the next. You can use it for a lot of different ways. But I like the Velcro because it's like up, down, switch out, switch in, switch out. It does mean there's a little bit of time printing and laminating, but it's just printing on white cardstock. It's a quick lamination, a quick run through the paper cutter. And then just the Velcro dots takes a little bit of time, but that's worth it. I used to do it where I had these up here and then I took a whiteboard marker and I'd write on the laminated paper, and that worked too. That just took a long time. So the Velcro dots make it a lot easier, and it means that I can switch things out. So let me show you what I can do with what I can. Let me show you what I can do with this. So this one says I can play, but let's say your administrator wants you to be more specific. I also have I can play with a steady beat. I have I can play forte, loud, and piano, quiet, on my recorder. I have I can play barred percussion instruments like xylophones, metallophones, and glockenspiels. I have I can play the notes, B, A, and G on my recorder. I have I can play in a small group with my friends. I can't read that backwards. I can play non-pitched percussion instruments. So I have a variety of I can play so that when I need to, I can just flip it out. But if you're going to use the I can statements the way the district wants you to, you need to have an I can that students can understand. And so for me, for the younger grades, I will put I can play. Or if I think it's appropriate, I can play with a steady beat. For the older grades, I'll get more specific. I can play recorder. I can use the pitch percussion. I can, et cetera, more specific. But I just like that I'm able to vary it so that I have a lot of different options. And I made these a bunch of years ago, and it's really nice. Folks, as they've found it and use it in their classroom, they've sent me other hey, could you add I can move, or I can dance a folk dance, or I can do a long way set, or whatever. It's nice that people email me in and are like, hey, can you add that? And so I add it, and then when I put it back on the Teachers Pay Teacher site, it updates, so anybody who has ever used that gets all of those I cans. But this way is easy for me to switch out the I can quickly and simply. But I would say I can statements are important, and they're something that I use pretty often. So these are right next to my whiteboard. They're on the wall. They're stapled up. This part is, and then the Velcro part just pops in as needed. Ta-da! And I leave up one for the lesson, and I do that one for the lesson because it's like my overarching theme. It's like if you look at my lesson plan, it's like my main objective for the day. And there may be 4 or 5 other things that I am also focusing on, but my administrator honestly doesn't care about that. They just care that I have an I can statement posted and that it relates to the major part of my lesson. So I know that I'm also working on pitch, and I'm also working on the tone that they're creating when they're singing. I'm also working on movement. But for my administrator's sake, and for the sake of doing this so I don't tear out my hair, I put up the main large thing. Some administrators like that, some don't. So that's how I sort of do I cans. Another thing that I think is really important, and I know some people think this is silly, I think the national standards are really sort of important. I wrote a whole thing for the Missouri Music Educators Journal, the magazine they send out, about national standards. And I think that they're so important because, I was out one day doing a bulletin board, and my principal years ago walks up and goes, "There are national standards for music?" And I wanted to turn around and be like, of course there are. What are you thinking? How could you dare ask that? I put them on every single lesson plan I sent to you. But I realized she wasn't being rude. She just really didn't know. She wasn't aware. And so for me, putting up the national standards is an awareness thing for other teachers, for administrators, for family members who walk in, and also for students. I want them to know that there are national standards and that we do really teach to them. So there are a couple ways you can do that. So I have these national standards, which are the National Core Arts Standards, and these I just put out in the hallway. I leave them up for a while so that parents know that we're working towards the national standards. And it is a simplified version of the standards. So for Standard 1, for creating, it says, I can use my critical thinking skills to create ideas. Yes, that's vague. But along with the other standards, it gives a little bit more context and it helps people understand that, you know, we're doing more than just singing. So another one, perform. I can prepare music for a performance. Yeah, we do that all the time. Respond. Number 9, using specific criteria, I can evaluate music and musical performances. They're simplified. My older kids can read them. My younger kids don't. But principals and parents and other teachers get it. And so I put those out in the hallway. I think they're important. If I have room in my room, I'll put them on the wall there too. But that's mostly for other adults, right? Then I also have more kid-friendly versions that I'll put out every once in a while. What are we doing this year in music? So this is a pirate theme, obviously. We are going to listen to and describe music that we hear. We are going to read and write music. So it's just little pirate characters along with some, musical stuff, but it gives students a little bit more of an anchor. Sorry for the pun. An anchor to what the standards are, and it helps them sort of understand a little bit better. Students love the colors on the other posters. They're like, oh, fun, but then they don't read them. Students will read these, and a lot of times they'll have parents or adults read these to them. So I like putting up a more kid-friendly version in the hall as well, and putting those out so that kids can see them. So I can statements, national standards, I think those for me are must-dos. I must have those out somewhere in the room or in the hallway or both. But those are really important to me. I also have a vocabulary wall. I call it the vocabulary wall. It's a word wall. And I put that up every year because I reference that all the time. Anytime we learn a new word, anytime we learn a new theme or something, I go show them where it is on the wall. And there are a couple reasons for that. Again, I wrote a blog post about word walls too. But why do I do that? Because I want students to know that I am following the same basic practices that they do in their homeroom, so that they get the repetition and they start, just like in their homeroom, they start looking for the words on the wall that are important for the lesson. In my room, they're looking for the words that they know are vocabulary words that are important. So that's one of the reasons I do it. I also do it because I want them to learn the words. I want them to see the words. And a lot of the research shows that the more words there are, the more kids see them, and even if you don't think they're reading them, they probably are. And so having the words up on the wall is really important to me. So I put out a word wall. I don't organize it alphabetically. I organize it by theme. So all the dynamics words are together, all the tempo words are together, all the notes and rests are together. And I do that because it just makes more sense to me than just putting up a random alphabetical word wall, because then kids see the words, they know it's a word wall, but they also see how those words relate to each other and how they function together. So that, and I have pictures of that, I think, on Instagram. I know I've done some stories on Instagram that I've saved in my highlights or memories or whatever they're called, so that they're there so you can see like how I've set that up and why I've set it up sort of like that. But I do word walls, and I think it's important, and I maybe do it a little bit differently than the way you're supposed to with the alphabet, but it feels more functional for me, and that's important, because why have it up there if you're not going to use it? And then I do something that sort of catches the student's eye, especially at the beginning of the school year. I put something out in the hallway, whether I have a bulletin board or not, whether I'm just taping stuff up on the wall. I do something to get the students' attention. So here are some examples. I have this whole set of, it looks like text message bubbles, but it's quotes about music. So this one is Leopold Stokowski, and it says, a painter paints pictures on canvas, but musicians paint their pictures on silence. I love that one, and I put it closer to the art room. Music, a magic beyond all we do here. Albus Dumbledore. Here's one by Taylor Swift. My kiddos really love that one still. Marilyn Manson actually said, music is the strongest form of magic. Interesting. I don't always put that one out. The only thing better than singing is more singing. Ella Fitzgerald. But these are fun, and kids like them because they look like text messages. And I know friends who put them up even like middle school, high school classrooms, and kids seem to still be interested and look at them. If you're in a secondary setting or you have older kids, you might want to go with something more like this, which is a little bit more subdued. It's the serious one because it's got a saxophone behind it instead of just a text bubble. But it says you've got to learn your instrument, then you practice, 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 and then when you finally get up there on the bandstand, forget all that and just wail. Charlie Parker. So it's quotes by famous musicians, quotes that relate to what we're doing, images of images of instruments and things that are related to what we do. And I put that on the hallway because, again, I think that kids are interested, it grabs their attention right away, and it gets them thinking about music. So I put that out in the hallway. I think that's really cool. There's a couple more things that you might consider. If you teach recorder, you might want to put the fingering charts on the wall. If you teach like guitar, you might want to put guitar fingering charts on the wall. But don't put them all there. Use the ones that like you're going to use. So if you're not going to use A7 or A minor or whatever, put the ones that you think are most important, unless you want them up there as a reference. But unless you want like a whole wall covered by ukulele chord charts or whatever, put out the ones that you know you're going to reference and use those as you can. And this last one, this is a freebie in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. This is, I call it Bloom's in Music Rooms, and it is the language of Bloom's taxonomy, along with like a ton of words that show how that functions in a music classroom. So, for example, evaluation, rate, justify, decide, discriminate, choose, defend, explain, assess, compare, evaluate, critique. These are all things that we do in the music room every day that maybe administrators don't realize is that area of Bloom's. Application, play an instrument, use dynamics, sight read, participate, accompany, march. These are all, again, just Bloom's. Comprehension stage, understand, classify, describe, restate, make sense of, summarize, distinguish. Some of these words just seem like academic language, but we use it that way in the music room too. Knowledge, memorize, fingerings, just some musical notation, dynamics, match, define. And this is a freebie in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, so if you go and you look for it, or if you can't find it, it's called like Bloom's in Music Rooms, and it's there. I know a lot of people around this time of year ask, how do you print all this stuff in color? And I think I saw somebody ask that already today. Great question. At my school, I have access to a color printer, and that is like one of the only wonderful, amazing benefits at my school. My school has some really sort of not so beneficial things. I mean, I have 1,200 students, and I only see them once every 7 days. So I would trade you my color printer for the frequency that you see your kids any day. But because we're such a mammoth school, we have a couple little resource things like that, like color printing, that are free for us. However, there are some things that I don't print at school and I print at home. And if you've ever done Instant Ink, it's amazing. See, Julie is talking about it on Facebook right now. Instant Ink, HP Instant Ink, Hewlett-Packard is fabulous. If you buy the printer, you don't have to worry about whether you're using color toner or black toner. It doesn't matter. It counts the pages you print each month. It's really pretty cheap, like way cheaper than if you went to UPS or wherever, Office Max. It's so much cheaper. You can control at home what you print, rather than like if you go to Office Max, like print the whole PDF and you're like, but I only wanted pages 2, 4, 7, and 29. They'll do all of that for you. So Instant Ink is totally worth it. And if you're like, I don't know, if in the links section for this video, I have Instant Ink, and so I put my link in there for a referral. If you want, you get a free month of it if you try it out. So you can grab that in the link. But I will be honest, I did not believe it at first, and it is fabulous. So Instant Ink is totally worth it if you print, especially if you print in color. It's definitely worth it because it doesn't count color or black and white. It doesn't care. It's just ink. So, and I see like so many people like, Instant Ink is great. I love my subscription. So I promise I'm not the only person. It's a great thing. Okay, so those are some things I think about sort of before school starts, and I hope that that gives you some ideas, because I know a lot of people are like, I got my lessons down, I'm good for that, I got my ideas, whatever, but the bulletin boards, and that stresses some people out. So I hope that gives you a couple ideas. All the bulletin board stuff that I just showed you is in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. Some of it's free, some of it's not. There's actually a Teachers Pay Teachers sale starting tomorrow or tonight at midnight, I guess, but then Tuesday and Wednesday, so you can get stuff up to 25% off. But anyway, if you're interested, there are links to all those things. And in the links section for this video, I have blog posts about bulletin boards. Some of the ones I've used, some have just DIY'd, why you might want to do different bulletin board things different ways. So go check those out. If you need ideas and you're like, I don't know what to do, there are a ton of links on that links page for you. Okay, so let's talk about day one in the music room. What do you do on the first day or the first rotation? So for me, day one goes until Friday, and it started last Thursday because I'm on a 7-day rotation. So what do you do on that first day? I would say avoid doing your first day like syllabus day in college, because we all hated syllabus day as adults, and it stinks just as much as a kid. So don't have them come in and sit down and be bored and spew out all your rules, because guess what? They're getting that in every class, in their homerooms and whatever. They're getting bombarded with rules and bring this in and fill out these forms and blah, blah, blah. And I don't feel like it sticks if I talk about it on that first day. Plus also I get so sick of it. So I try and avoid the syllabus day idea. So what I do instead is I sort of follow this procedure. I sort of do an opening game or song. I do some sort of name game to learn their names a little bit, even though really it's so hard if you're getting them all on just that first day. I quickly brush over the rules, but then usually I apply it to the song or game that we finish with. There's that song that's sort of the catch for the next time is you gotta come back because we're doing this song. I mean, they don't get to choose, they have to come back, but it's sort of ooh, get excited about coming back to music because we're going to finish this song or we're going to do more with this song or whatever. So I start with the song, sort of end with the song. I try and fit in some sort of movement activity, and then I have a catch, so something fun that they remember that helps them sort of ooh, yeah, music class, and I'll show a couple of those in just a second, some little trick or something fun that you can use. And a couple more things, I make sure to say my name 8 or 9 times with every class, because there are kids who don't remember my name, even if they've had my class for 4 years in a row. And there are some new kids, there are some kids who don't know how to pronounce it correctly. They need to hear it. So I say my name quite a bit, which feels a little weird and narcissistic, but I do it because kids need to know my name. They just need to feel comfortable in that. They need to be able to ask questions. They need to have my name ready so that they can reach out if they need it. So that's one of the things that I do. I try and be really specific to do that on purpose. So some of those opening games and songs, I've done videos about them. I've done blog posts about them. I do Ram Sam Sam. That was actually my very first Musical Mondays video. I led you through how I did Ram Sam Sam. That's a 2nd grade one. I do the Choo Choo Train song for kindergarten to help them learn the line and come on in and have fun. I do a song called Chester for some of my older grades. I mean, I do all sorts of things, and whatever you want to do that you think would be fun and exciting, maybe you take, well, probably not this first day, but maybe take a song that they've learned the previous year and add something new to it. Whatever you want to do that you know is a stellar lesson. Maybe you do Sasha the very first day because that's such a great song and kids love it. There are all different things that you can do, but I always try and do something that's about 8 to 12 minutes as that opening activity that gets them in, that gets them moving a little bit, and hopefully by the end I get them into either a circle shape or into a scattered formation so that they can watch and listen. But usually for my younger grades it takes them into a circle shape so we can go to the next thing. For older grades it'll sometimes go to a scattered formation. But that first activity gets them in, gets them excited, because maybe they just came from, who knows? Maybe they just came from a lecture time and they need something different. So this sort of energizes them, gets them a reminder of what we're going to do in the class, and moves us forward. I do that opening song, and then I do a name game. There are a bunch of name games you can do. Jump in, jump out, rickety rackety. I did blog or podcast episodes about both of those. If you're wanting some of that, there are name game podcasts you can go through and find, so you get some of that. But I do something. I mean, there are 1,000 different name games that you can do, or name songs, or whatever. You can do all of that stuff to give them a chance to say their name. So let's see. Then I do sort of a quick brush through my rules as it applies to a game. So if we're going to do like the beanbag song, I might say, ooh, and my rules are, keep it simple, be smart, be safe. Let's see how that applies to the beanbag song. Okay, so keep it simple. That means I should probably toss just sort of in my face, not over the back, under the hand, over, around, kick, off my elbow, off my elbow, off my elbow, catch on my chin, and back to my hand. That'd be too crazy. I try to keep things simple and just do the beanbag in the front. And why is one of our rules keep it simple? Because when we get to improvisation, I want them to know the simple answer is okay. It's an okay place to start, and then they can build off of that. But I always try and get in my kids' heads, it's okay to start with the simple thing, to repeat and move on. So I made that one of my class rules, and it's been really helpful. So keep it simple is the first one. Be smart. We talk about how that applies to tossing a beanbag or balancing a beanbag or dancing with that. And be safe, again, how does that apply to the activity? So I take those 3 rules, I quickly brush through them. Later in other lessons, I give more examples of how does that look on this song? How does simple, smart, and safe look on this song? How does simple, smart, and safe look on this one? All options that we talk about later on in different lessons. But we quickly talk about them here. And then I do some sort of movement. So when we do movement for my younger kiddos, K1 and 2, usually that means walking to the steady beat. So walking to the steady beat, keeping the steady beat on your knees first, keeping it in your hands, keeping it on your shoulders, putting it on the top of your head, moving it on the floor, and then we stand up, staying non-locomotor or stationary. We do the steady beat on our feet, we do it on our knees, we do it wherever, and then the next the next thing after that is that you do it locomotor. You move around the room. And eventually I stop saying or repeating or using words. I pick up a drum and I do a steady beat on that, and I keep the beat. When the drum stops, they stop. I slowly layer things in so that they're getting more stimuli. So then they have to listen for the drum. They have to know when the drum starts, when the drum stops. They have to know, layers of things. You got that. Now add this. Now add this. Now add this. One of my favorite things to add in is to move from drums to this guiro, this huge frog guiro, and I call him King Frog. And so we have to move to King Frog's beat. So for example, so they move their feet to that beat, right? So I do that a couple times. When he stops, they stop. Then King Frog interjects. What King Frog would you say? Oh, he thinks we're going too fast. Okay, we'll go a little slower. So we do that. What King Frog? What'd you say? Oh, we're going too fast. What King Frog? Sorry, what did you say? Oh, too fast. The kids get it. And we slow it way down. And by this time they're like, King Frog, no, please. Let us go faster. So this frog, I see a couple of people are asking. I got it from when I went to MMEA, the Missouri Music Educators Association last year. I saw it at the booth for MIE, Music is Elementary. I know West Music has it. I know Amazon has it. I got it from MIE, and it was a really great price. This is the 9-inch frog guiro. However, the kids get sick of King Frog because he keeps wanting to slow it down. So then I pick up Baby Frog. Baby Frog is very different. And Baby Frog has no problem going fast. So then she goes her way. Right? So this is really small. And so then Baby Frog doesn't say, let's go slower. Baby Frog, what'd you say? And you could say go faster. But Baby Frog says, you're being too loud. Quieter. What, Baby Frog? Oh, too loud. So now the kids are like tiptoeing around the room. right? So then you could do another tempo thing. I like to do a dynamics thing just for fun and what could we do next. So King Frog and Baby Frog, they're just two very different frog guiros, but they're fun to use, and I use them for that steady beat activity. And it's just something to get kids excited, to think them how to fun. They're not just randomly walking around the room. They're listening. They're actively listening for, different speeds. They're listening for different things. So I think that's a really fun way to start. And like I said, it starts sitting in a circle, patting your knees. And then you pat the floor, and then you stand up and you walk in place, and then you're walking around the room, and it just slowly scaffolds into that activity. So by the end, they're moving to King Frog. Now, if my administrator walked in, and I'm standing there going, "What, King Frog?" and the kids are like laughing, walking around the room, I mean, that'd be weird. But luckily, that hasn't happened yet, and no one, please email my principal to tell them to come in. Okay, that's a fun thing you can do just as a movement activity. That's a great sort of thing that you can do in the first day rotation. I also, when I do my name game with my youngest kids, I pull out my yarn ball, and I use this for a couple of reasons. One, the yarn ball shows the whole group who gets to talk. It's like Lord of the Flies. I got the conch. But this yarn ball, if you have it, you're the kid who gets to say their name. And so, in whatever name game you use, this signifies who's up, right? But also, for the kid who has to say their name, this is it's like a lovey. It's like a positive energy device, because they get to hold it. It's squishy. They can squish it. It's soft. It's fun. Like they get excited they get to have it, but it also encourages them to not be freaked out about having to say their name. Right? So it's like holding your blanket or holding your stuffed animal while you're on the spot having to do something on the first day. So using a yarn ball or something like this, it has a great function. It's also super exciting for kids, and it helps them out, but it works really well. And then as they're thinking about, do I get to go back to music, they get to think about the yarn ball or about King Frog or whatever, and it's one of those, it's like a hook that sort of brings them back. I did a blog post about how you can make your own yarn ball. It's really not hard. It just takes a little bit of time. But I made this one. It's as big as King Frog, right? Like it's pretty big. So you can do it, whatever size you want. But they're very easy to make. And so I have a blog post for that too, linked in the comments. Let's see, I have another thing that I use often on that first day, especially with my youngest kids. Obviously, I put on a puppet. And if you watch any of my videos from last year, you know that I do love puppets. So this is Peter, the rabbit. And so for some of my kids, we do a little poem called "I Saw a Little Rabbit Go Hop, Hop, Hop." That's in, I think, the Feyerabend books. But I'm sure it's also online. For my first graders, we do Little Bunny Foo Foo, but Peter is not Little Bunny. I have a different Little Bunny for him, because then Foo Foo's a bad bunny and Peter's not. But Peter eventually comes back to teach the kids about speaking voice. Peter has, just a really great time with kids. So Peter gets to come out on this first day and get kids excited about seeing puppets. Peter, thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for having me. I am so glad to be here. I'm so sorry if you've not ever watched one of these videos before. I'm a puppet nerd, so I'm really excited to have Peter here with me. Okay, and then one more thing. A lot of times I like to pull in a book for the first day of class. I'm not going to read this whole book to you, but I wanted to share just a little bit of it. Because I think it's pretty easy book to find. It's in the book fair a lot. It's in a lot of school libraries, and it's a super great book for the first day of school. So let me just show you part of it. Peanut Butter and Cupcake by Terry Border. I know the words are backwards. I'm so sorry, but it's my FaceTime camera. But I'll try and just read it for you, so you don't have to worry about the words. Peanut Butter. Ooh, yeah, you can see it. Peanut Butter got a ball for his birthday. He was kind of bad at kicking it with his feet, but was kind of good at balancing it on his head. Ooh. Still, it wasn't much fun playing with a ball all by himself. "Want to play with me?" he asked his mom. They had just moved to town, and Peanut Butter didn't have any friends yet. "I think you should go outside and find someone else to be your friend," she answered. Peanut Butter liked that idea very much, so off he went. It wasn't long before he saw a someone. And then there's a little poem that he repeats over and over, and I was like, well, obviously I've got to sing this. So I've not written down the notation for it, but I hope to do so soon. But there's a little poem right here, and this is how I sing it. Hello, I'm new here, and I'd like to play. Maybe now, maybe later, even all day. I'll make you chuckle down deep in your belly, and we'll go together like peanut butter and hamburger. Hamburger, I'm sorry, said Hamburger, but I'm busy walking the dogs. Thanks for asking, though. You're welcome, said Peanut Butter. Maybe next time. And he kept walking. And so then kids love this because Hamburger is walking the dogs. The hot dogs. Oh my gosh. Puns galore. It's a really hilarious book. He sings again. Then he saw Cupcake playing by herself. He thought she looked sweet. Pun. And might make a good friend. Hello, I'm new here and I'd like to play. Maybe now, maybe later, even all day. I'll make you chuckle down deep in your belly, and we'll go together like peanut butter and Cupcake. I'm building sprinkle castles, said Cupcake. You can stay and watch, but please don't hit my castle with your ball or I'll be mad. Peanut Butter didn't want to make anyone mad. That's okay, Peanut Butter said, and he kept walking. Obviously, Peanut Butter goes all around the neighborhood. He meets an egg. He meets a jump roping meatball who's jump roping on a spaghetti noodle. He meets a thing of French fries. And then he meets Alphabet Soup, who doesn't even let him sing his song. He just spells N-O with his Alphabet Soup, which I think is hilarious. And then poor Peanut Butter sits all by himself, and who comes along except Jelly. So when he sings, the song goes, I'll make you chuckle down deep in your belly, and we'll go together like peanut butter and jelly. And that's what the kids have been waiting for forever this whole time. But the best part is she says, sure, I'll be your friend, said Jelly, but could you teach me how to keep the ball in my head? I'm only good with my feet. And at that point the kids are like, that is perfect because Peanut Butter is good at keeping it on his head but not using his feet. So they love how it sort of complements. I love this book because it's a fun one that I can introduce a musical thing. They can hear me singing. They can start anticipating, because that's one of the great things about this book is that you're singing and they are anticipating peanut butter and jelly because they know they go together, and then something else happens, and so it's really fun. Peanut Butter and Cupcake by Terry Border, Terryborder, and I'll put a link to that on the links page. But it's just a super, super, super cute book. I got it at the Scholastic Book Fair for pretty cheap. Really great book. I used this for second grade this time. I'd never tried it with my kids before on the back to school lessons, and it's worked really well. And later, I'm hoping that when we start getting into duets and how do you make a group of two and how do you find a partner quickly, I can reference Peanut Butter and Jelly, Peanut Butter and Cupcake, and say you remember how bad Peanut Butter felt when he couldn't find a friend? Or, ooh, we need to find pear, so Peanut Butter, go find a jelly, or, whatever. It's a fun way to introduce that and use that later. But that one I used was second grade, just as a catch at the end of class. You could use it probably younger if you wanted, but it's up to you. And like I said, I have not written down how I sang it, but I'm hoping to write down the notation for that eventually. I just need to find some time. Okay, so on that first rotation, I don't do a long rules. I don't do a long sit down. I do, I want to get away from syllabus day. I just keep thinking about that, my college syllabus day, and how much I hated that. So instead, I do an opening song. I do some sort of name game. I say my name for kids so that they learn it. I do a quick run through rules as they apply to another activity, usually. I do some sort of song or game or book or something that gets their attention so they think about coming back, and some sort of movement if I can, right? One other thing I do with kids is I talk about my microphone, because I wear a microphone all day, every day, and I talk about why I do that, and I say, you might have noticed when I'm talking into this thing, when you come into the music room, you might see it. I actually have two different styles. This is one style I really like. And I have a link for this too if you're interested. This was like $40 on Amazon, and it works really, really well. But I say to kids, I wear it for two reasons. One, because I'm singing all day long, and if I sing without the microphone, I have to sing sort of louder, and it hurts my voice, and I need to be able to sing every day, so I don't want to have to lose my voice. But also, there are some kids at our school who have a hard time hearing. There's actually a boy in second grade, you might have seen him, he has a hearing aid that helps him hear because his ears just don't work exactly the way that the rest of ours do. So I wear the microphone so that he can hear better. And guess what? There are other kids who don't know they need to have a hearing aid, and they do because their ears could also use that help. So I use my microphone all the time so that all kids can hear me better. And actually, it's sort of been proven that kids who are English language learners also benefit from having a microphone or an amplified teacher voice. All kids really do benefit from it, especially if you're the music teacher, but English language learners and students with hearing impairments especially benefit from that. So on the links page, I have a link to this. So if you're interested, I'll just say that this one I bought on Amazon, and it hooks up to a little belt pack, and then the other part, the receiver end, has a 1/4-inch cable which can hook into like a speaker system, and it also has an adapter with the little auxiliary cable, so you can hook it into like the back of a Bluetooth speaker or basically anything else. So between this connection and this connection, you have options, right? And it was only about $40. I'll say that when I bought it, it sort of would cut in and out a little bit, and that's what all the reviews say. But if you buy like rechargeable batteries that you can recharge every day, that will always be on, it doesn't cut out. So I realized I was just like burning through batteries here, and then I would burn through batteries in the other thing, and I wouldn't realize I needed. So now what I do is I just change it at lunch. I just switch out the batteries, and there's another thing on Amazon where you can buy a rechargeable charger, 4 AA's and 4 AAA's all at once. And so I just did that, and then it means that my system works perfect every time. So anyway, that's another thing that I talk about on the first day so that I never have to talk about it again. And kids are like, oh yeah, that's his microphone, no big deal. And we go on. Okay, so that's my first day. In that second rotation, in that next rotation, we do some of the other stuff. So I start my seating chart for the older grades. We talk about our group, our teams. We do all of that. And the second day, I'll talk about that again in just a second. On like the third day, we talk about fire drills, tornado drills, all that other stuff, because they're getting that in some other places. I want them to get it in the music room too, but there's just so much to do in that first rotation and second rotation that it just doesn't get in. So I put it in that third rotation to make sure that I get it before the year gets too far along. But let me talk to you a little bit about seating charts and grouping and stuff. So I did a whole blog post about this, but every grade, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't do it with K and 1, but every grade 2, 3, 4, and 5, I split them into 4 different teams. I use the teams all year long. I use them every time we line up. I use them in so many different classes, and the 4 teams are named strings, percussion, woodwinds, brass. So I name the teams after the 4 instrument families, so when we come to that unit later on, the kids already know what the 4 instrument families are. They might know some of the instruments in their instrument family, and each kid feels a tie to one of those families. So like if I'm in the woodwinds family, I might look up at the wall and see the line of the flags of instrument family instruments. Oh, there's a flute in instrument family. Oh, look, there's a bassoon or clarinet or saxophone or whatever. And I start learning that just in my time lining up, or, in free time, I look up and I see my family and I start noticing that. Kids don't always have the same family year to year, but I do, I try and, sometimes rotate them if I can so that they get a chance in the different families. So, how do I assign kids to different families? Well, it's very scientific. I take their roster and I go, 1 1 is strings, 2 is percussion, 3 is brass, 4 is woodwinds. 1 is strings, 2 is percussion, 3 is brass, 4 is woodwinds. At my old school, I used to be strategic, okay, I need 6 on each one, and Abigail and Carly and Jeremiah should never be together, so I'm going to move them, blah, 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 blah. And I would spend hours working through these teams, and I always found that no matter how hard I worked on them, I would get the kids in the teams and I would see a pairing that I should have known and remembered, and I had to in the moment go, wait just a second. I said that wrong. You're actually over there. So what I found is it saves me so much time and stress if I just sort of do it randomly at the beginning of the school year. And then as kids are put in those groups, when I see them, I can go, no, I'm going to change that. I can just scribble on my thing and change it. So what I'd say is I just sort of do it randomly at first. I assess it or just run through it quickly randomly. And then I don't laminate it. I don't make it official, but I don't put it on the wall because I know I'm probably have to make a couple changes. So each of my 4 instrument families has its own color. So if you ever use those big Bomar, like they're 1,000 years old, but those big like hard cardboard posters that every music room used to have hang on the wall with all the instrument families, each one had its own color. Blue was strings. Strings was blue, woodwinds was yellow, percussion was green, brass was red. So that's how I model the colors for each family. My flags are all the same colors, my lines are all the same colors. I just do it because I know that I have those posters and I'm going to put them out eventually out in the hallway, and so I want everything to match and color coordinate so the kids sort of know it, right? So what I do is as I'm sorting up families, I just take my roster and I use a little highlighter, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right, and I go through and I highlight all the woodwinds, okay, because woodwinds is yellow. And then I take a blue highlighter or whatever, thing comes next. And I highlight those, and then I come through with brass, which I don't have a red highlighter, so sometimes I'll use pink and sometimes I'll use just a Crayola marker or whatever. And percussion is green, right? So then I just highlight that, and then it's easy for me to visually see as I'm calling it out to students on that second day, and they just like sit in that group, and we do games and stuff in that group. The one thing I'll say that I'm strategic about is if I have a kid, and all you band nerds are gonna laugh at me, but if I was a band nerd, I'll just say that. If I have a kid who I know is going to be a problem. I know their name because either they're like the best kids or the trouble kids, like the names that stick in your memory. Like I can't name one of my own children that ever. If I know that kid is going to be trouble, I put him in percussion. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, because then I know I always got to look out for the green family because that's got the troublemakers in it. Or if I ever need to have a para assigned to it, it's always the green group. Or if I want somebody closer to the door or further away from the door, whatever I'm doing for the sake of rotation or whatever, I always know that the runners or the whatever are in that green group, right? So I just sort it out that way, and in my head it makes sense. But I'm sorry, percussionists, if you feel singled out. I actually started out as a percussionist, so I'm just going to say that. But anyway, I do that because it just helps me know, right? So what's also nice about this is that then when you go in later, you can just make quick changes as you need to, but the highlighter really helps you see it. So on that second day, I also often will take a seating chart and assign kids, and I just sort of put them out in their order. This is a printout from something I used last year on Idokio. I'm really hoping to have an entire video about Idokio and how I use that app in the music room for seating charts and rosters and all that sort of stuff. That's not going to happen tonight, but on that second day, I give kids their seating chart spots. I used to fight seating charts. I used to say, like, kids, I'm going to let them be scattered. We're going to do, whatever. But I've learned that kids like a seating chart. And I don't use it all the time, every day. I really don't. Maybe we hit it once or twice in a class period, maybe. But, it really hit home for me when a kid came in on open house night and they said, hey, Mom, that's my family. Strings is my family. See that poster? That's for me. And I was like, oh, hey, cool. He's remembering stuff. And then he went, Mom, that's my spot. That's my spot. It's for me. I always sit here. This is where I always sit. And actually, I was in another classroom that had the same rug as me, and they're like, ooh, that's my music room spot. And like, it just helps kids to know that like when they come into the music room, they know they have a spot, that if we ever go to seating chart spots, it's theirs alone. Nobody else is going to be in it. It's their safe space, and that's really important to them. So I always do a seating chart now because I want kids to know that they have that spot when they come to the music room, and it's their safe place. Okay, that gives you sort of a view generally of what I do before the first day of school. I think a lot about bulletin boards. I think a lot about the organization of my room. I get it ready. I get instruments out. I get everything so it's accessible and usable, right? That's important. And I've written blog posts about how you should set up your room and all that sort of stuff. And room tours and all that. If you're interested in that, you can search makemomentsmatter.org, and there's lots of ideas. On the first day, I try and keep it light, have fun, get kids through, get them excited so they want to come back to music, right? Because there are some kids who really do and some kids who really don't. And so trying to get them excited and energized on that first day, I think, is very important. And then on day 2, rotation 2, I start bringing in some of the teams. I give them their seating chart. We start getting in some of that more administrative stuff that is not so exciting. But we already have those games and songs from day 1 that I can bring back and use. So I'm not spending a lot of time in day 2 teaching a new song, because they already know one of those songs. I can build off that song I did on day 1, and then I can take a little bit more time for seating charts and pictures and whatever else I need to do. Okay, I see a couple questions. I'm going to try and get them really quick because I'm almost out of time. Well, the seating chart, someone said, does the seating chart coordinate with the family? I don't have kids sit with their families necessarily, but when I do get my seating chart set, I color code it so I can see who's who. And sometimes I'll have a second seating chart that has, like, you know, groupings of kids and their things, but I just use the color. That helps me know who's in which family really quickly. Let's see. Seating charts are helpful. Thank you for thinking that too. Let's see. Do you put your charts on the wall? No. They're just for me. Plus, also, I don't want my kids' names just plastered out on the wall because I have 1,200 of them, and I'll never find them. So I just sort of put them in my folder and use them as I needed to. I'm so sorry, percussionists. I see a lot of people who apparently feel singled out. Sorry about that, but you know it fits. So, let's see. A lot of people saying, hey, that's good. Karen says, my school requires I do emergency things the first week. And then she said, it's crazy because I don't see everyone until week 3. So it's tricky. Like, how do you fit that in? Some people saying they've used the microphone. Cool. Like I said, if I said it's on the links page and you go to the links page and it's not there, send me a message or send me an email, and I promise I will put it on the links page, or at least figure out how to get that information to you. Cool. People loving puppets. Great. People talking about the book we read through, the yarn ball. Like I said, a lot of those things, those links are there on the links page. If you're an Instagrammer and you're watching an Instagram live and you're like, what links page? If you go to my link in bio, link in profile, you can click on it and it'll take you to the links page. If you go to the Musical Mondays recap, you can even just go to makemomentsmatter.org and click on the video tab to find those links too. And one more thing, people are asking, what about the dots on the floor, the spots on the floor? I know a lot of people use sit spots, which are great. I don't have carpet, so I can't do that. Sit spots are Velcro dots that go on the floor. And I have a big rug that has spots on them. It's a really cool rug. It's expensive, but it was there when I got there, so that works for me. I've done a thing in the past where, if I didn't have sit spots and I was on carpet, there are ways you can, put down tape that won't leave marks and stuff like that. There are a lot of ways you can organize that, but for me to say, like, here's how you should do it, won't work because everyone's room is completely different. So it's hard for me to say, like, here, try this one, because I don't know your room. Maybe you have a tiered room. Maybe you are on a cart. Maybe you can't, everyone's different. Okay, so there's a lot on makemomentsmatter.org. There's a lot in the links here. If you have questions about anything, Sam said, what conferences will you be at this year? That's all on makemomentsmatter.org on my About Me section. But I think I'm going to be at 5 state conferences, and a province. And some other stuff around the country, some more workshops and other local things I'm really excited about. But I'm mostly excited about just seeing all of you here. I hope I'll see you next Monday for another Musical Mondays that will be actually like the normal thing, where I do a run through of all my lessons, where I give you all those ideas and resources, sort of how I'm using it, and then do a deep dive into those resources and give you a really good in-depth view onto one of those lessons. So that's going to happen next week, I promise. I'm sorry I did something weird this first week, but I just did a different thing because I wanted to talk about a lot of different things that people have asked or people have questions about, and I hope that that's been helpful. 3 super quick things. 1, there's going to be a gift card giveaway for Teachers Pay Teachers if you check back to my Facebook page in just a little bit. There's a Teachers Pay Teachers sale tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's cool. Tomorrow is Tuesday, so Tuesday and Wednesday. You get up to 25% off of things in Teachers Pay Teachers. And if you remember last year, through the month of August, I did a weekend giveaway. Every weekend was a different giveaway. One week was puppets. One week was coffee mugs. One week was movement activities. I'm doing that again. So come back this weekend. If you're on my mailing list, you're probably going to get an email about it. Probably, if I have time to set that up. But there are going to be different giveaways, different companies, different people have partnered with me. I'm really excited. Some really cool stuff. So come back for that on Friday. That'll be up there, the TGIF giveaway. All right, thanks so much, everyone, for coming along. If you have questions, keep leaving them. I'll try and get to them. And have a great week with your kids, or a great week planning for your kids if you are not back in school like the crazy people in Georgia. All right, have a good night, everyone.